But if Andy Burnham does get back into Parliament and sooner or later launches a challenge to Keir Starmer, what ideas might he fight on? What policies could he pursue? I spent yesterday afternoon with supporters of a campaigning organisation closely allied to the Greater Manchester Mayor, where all the talk there was about parties with common interests making common cause.
So the next session is at 1:20. Do you know which one you want to go to?
Not everyone would choose to spend a sweltering Saturday afternoon inside an East London arts venue sweating over politics, but plenty have schlepped here to Shoreditch to talk, debate, swap ideas about the future of the left, or what Compass calls progressive politics.
Progressive answers on asylum, how to move millions, how to make media work for progressives.
I've been to more than one thing on asylum recently.
Okay, so you want to try something different?
Compass used to be affiliated to the Labour Party, now it's cross-party, and today's speakers include the Green Party leader Zach Polansky and the former Lib Dem Cabinet Minister Vince Cable.
I'm Neal Lawson and I'm the director of Compass, who are co-hosting this Change Now event today. What we're talking about today is that change from a two-party politics to a two-block politics. I think the first thing we've got to do is build some trust and build some relationships, and then talk about how do we work together ahead of the next election, which will be critical so that we don't cancel each other out and let the right bloc in by default. And then, you're going to have some kind of, I think, coalition government. Well, how do you do that, which is not a coalition of chaos, which is a coalition of sustainability, an order, and that's going to require a change to our old adversarial politics of, two sides, kicking lumps out of each other. How do we work together for the common good and for the national good? How do we put country before party? And that's what we've been discussing at this conference.
You are Burnham's people, aren't you, here at Compass?
Yeah, because he recognises that we've got to change our democratic systems, we've got to change the state in order to change our economy. You can't put clean water through a dirty, corrupted, old, rusting political system and expect clean water to come out the other end. I guess this is Team Burnham, alive and kicking.
He was meant to be here, wasn't he? But he's got other things to do this weekend.
He was here last year. Maybe he'll be here next year, but with a bit more security around him. Let's see.
Well, Geoff Mulgan's here this morning, former Director of Policy for Tony Blair in Downing Street a long time ago, now a Professor of Public Policy, of many things at University College London. Geoff, this feels like 2 years into this Labour government, a moment where the party is really trying to figure out what it's about, how it should be governing and who should be leading the party. Is this work, do you think, that should have been done long before it finds itself in power?
Well, I think it's clear in retrospect there were several missing things before 2024. One was actually just cultivating imagination. What's possible? What could Britain do in the next 5 or 10 years? It was really a conscious decision by Starmer and his team to say, we don't want that, we'll just be competent managers. And that's clearly not worked well. There was a failure of just basic preparation on how to get the machinery of the state working, aligned with the goals. Almost none of the current political leadership were very interested in that. And that again has shown up in the problems on housing and planning and economic growth. So this is a strange time to be having a renewal of argument and ideas and intellectual debate, but it's better to happen now than never. It should have happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but as someone once said, the best time to plant a tree is always 20 years ago.
And a really hard time to be a centre-left government when there is no money.
There's not much money now, it's true, there's fiscal pressures everywhere, but part of political creativity is knowing how you can use money more smartly. One of the issues which has come up here is tax strategy. There hasn't been a strategic approach to tax, which obviously you need if you're going to be a progressive government, and that's not just things like wealth taxes and carbon taxes and digital and so on, but that's one of the missing things which should have been done a few years ago, without which it's very hard to have a really forward-looking progressive agenda.
Also here is the former Labour First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford. He's a big believer in parties with shared values working together, but thinks Labour's revival does require a change at the top too.
If you were on the doorstep, as I was throughout the month of April, there is just no doubt that the Prime Minister no longer has the confidence of people who elected Labour less than 2 years ago. I will be in the Makerfield by-election campaigning for an Andy Burnham victory, and I hope that he will succeed there, and I hope he will put his hat into the ring to be our next Prime Minister.
But you heard Tony Blair this week saying, look, this is not about who leads the party. This is about something quite fundamental about the policy offer that this government, in his view, has failed to come up with so far.
Well, I myself always much more interested in policy than I am in personalities in politics. But in order to get a new policy direction, I think you probably do need a new leader at the helm in Downing Street who can make that new programme matter. One of the problems for the Prime Minister is that his future has been so long under discussion that I don't think Downing Street can operate effectively. His word just doesn't run through Whitehall or through Westminster. We need someone who can use the more than 3 years that still remains of this Parliament to make that real difference.
We could get electoral reform before the next election, then that would just be transformative, and I really worry.
And one policy change that Mark Drakeford wants to see quickly is a proportional voting system for UK-wide elections, a goal he shares with the former Green Party leader and Compass co-chair, Caroline Lucas.
Unless we can find ways to work together and find areas where we can find common ground, rather than staying solely in our own tribes and feeling very much more holy than everybody else, if we do that, then that is a surefire way of giving the keys to Nigel Farage next time around. So I think it's just so incumbent upon all of us to find ways of working together more effectively.
You thought that the Green Party shouldn't stand in Makerfield, didn't you? And give Andy Burnham a clear run at trying to win that seat and then becoming Prime Minister. What was your thinking?
Because Andy Burnham has a commitment to electoral reform, that is the key to open up this kind of distorted, archaic electoral system that we have. Now, what I'm not saying is that the Greens should be standing down left, right and centre. We've tried that before and it was absolutely unreciprocated. Labour, some people in Labour basically still have the attitude that the Greens just need to get out of the way. The Greens are doing brilliantly at the moment. We are real players. But at the same time, I think it's incumbent on everybody to come to the table and find areas where we can find common ground. The way that people voted at the last election showed that there is no longer support for a two-party system, which is what First Past the Post is designed for and tends to deliver.
Caroline, thanks very much indeed. Former Green Party leader Caroline Lucas, ending my report from the Compass conference. I thought it was interesting, Rosa, that Compass does see politics now, as many people do, as two blocks, and they're trying to fuse common ground ahead of what they think could easily be a hung parliament at the next general election.